You alright there guys, welcome back to Kieran's Movie Space, the podcast where I talk about the latest movies and TV shows. In this episode, I'm going to review Netflix's new original series, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So basically, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina follows Sabrina Spellman, a teenage half-witch, who on her 16th birthday is forced to choose between her mortal life and her supernatural destiny. This is a show that I've been really excited about. I loved the 90s series when I was a kid, and even though this is an adaptation of the comics and not a remake of that show, I was excited to see what they were going to do with the character and with the world of Sabrina overall. The full first season was released on Netflix over the weekend. I finally finished watching it last night, and now I'm here to give you guys my full review. This is a spoiler-free review, so if you've not finished the show yet or even started it, you don't need to worry. I'm not going to talk about any specific story details or anything like that. I'm just going to say what I liked and what I didn't like before giving you guys my overall thoughts and my final score. So we might as well get straight into it, starting with what I liked about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and the first thing I should say is that the cast for this series is absolutely flawless. Kiernan Shipka is the perfect Sabrina. She's got this kind of youthful innocence, but then there are moments where you see this really experienced and mature witch, and she balances the two really well. Shipka really makes you fall in love with Sabrina, which just makes it easier to fall in love with everything else. The supporting cast is really great as well. You've got Lucy Davis as Sabrina's Aunt Hilda and Miranda Otto as Aunt Zelda, and they're two of the most entertaining characters. They're not in the show as much as I thought they'd be, but they steal whatever scene they're in and they never fail to make you laugh. Especially Lucy Davis, who I loved as Etta Candy in Wonder Woman, and she's brilliant in this as well. The biggest surprise for me from the cast was probably Chance Perdomo, who plays Sabrina's cousin Ambrose. When the season first started, I wasn't sure what role he'd play in the series, but as the season developed, he quickly became one of the more interesting and layered characters, and I can't wait to see where they might take that character in future seasons and future storylines. It's not just the cast that works either. The season has a really fun and a really surprising story as well. At the end of the day, you should have fun watching something like this, and I've got to say that I watched every episode with a massive smile on my face. The story was intriguing, it was fun, and it kept you on your toes. The writers did an awesome job of making you think the story was heading in one direction, and then switching things up and taking you down a completely different road. They did that a few times, and it was really entertaining to watch where they were taking us, and I don't think anyone out there will be disappointed by the story that they've decided to tell. Another thing that I really liked about this was that even though it is a high school drama and most of the characters are high school students, it doesn't have that typical kind of high school feel. It doesn't have all of the stereotypical storylines that usually come with a high school drama. You know, it doesn't have the student that's secretly sleeping with the teacher or the out of control love triangle. It treats its characters like adults and tells the story that it wants to tell without getting distracted by over-the-top storylines that we've seen a million times before in other high school dramas. I think a lot of people will be surprised by the tone of the series, especially if they're going into it expecting a remake of the 90s show. For those of you that might not know, this is based on a very specific comic book series, and it's a very dark and really quite serious version of Sabrina. In terms of tone, the only thing that I can really compare this to is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because while there are massive differences between the two shows, the tone of this feels very similar to Buffy. It can be really dark and it can be quite scary at times, but there's also a lot of fun and a lot of levity. It walks that line really well and it balances the two tones perfectly. The setting really works as well. As far as I know, the show is set in modern day, but it very much feels like it takes place in the 60s. If you look at the sets and the costumes and just the way that the show's been constructed, you'd think that all of this is happening in the 60s, but then something will happen that'll remind you that it's actually modern day, and I was really impressed by how they gave the show that 60s kind of vibe while keeping it set in modern day. It's the same kind of thing that they did with Riverdale, but they took it to a whole new level with Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and it definitely works for this series. One thing that I was worried about before I watched the series was the magic, just because a lot of shows that involve witches and magic can often go a bit over the top, and it becomes a little bit too cheesy. Thankfully though, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina avoids this by going in a really dark direction with the mystical side of the story. Magic's shown to be this really serious serious and dangerous tool that shouldn't just be used however and whenever a witch wants to. And that's not to say that the show takes itself too seriously. What I really enjoyed was that it knew when to be serious, but it also knew when to have a good time and when to show the fun and kind of cheesy side of being a teenage witch. Alright, so moving on to some of the things that I didn't like about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, one thing that really didn't work for me was some of the dialogue. For the most part, the writing and the dialogue is really smart and it's really witty and snappy, and again, I think it's very similar to Buffy in that way, but then there's a lot of dialogue that's just way too cheesy and way too cringeworthy, and there were a few moments throughout where I actually rolled my eyes or even laughed out loud at some of the dialogue. I also think that the season could have benefited a little bit from shorter episodes. Each episode in this season is at least an hour long, and in some cases that is the perfect amount, but there were a few episodes that felt a bit sluggish and they could have easily been cut down to maybe 40 or 50 minutes. At certain points it just felt like they were filling time with unimportant scenes that didn't really further the story or develop the characters. Another problem that I had, and it's not a massive issue because they did seem to get rid of it after the first few episodes, but there were a lot of shots at the beginning that were kind of blurry and out of focus. It was clearly a creative decision and they were obviously trying to give the show a unique visual style, but I found it to be really annoying. It was distracting and I can't quite understand why they decided to do it. But like I said, it did kind of stop after a few episodes, so it didn't really ruin my overall experience of the show. Overall, guys, I had a lot of fun with Netflix's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. If you're looking for a new show to watch over this Halloween period, I definitely recommend giving this show a try. It delivers a version of Sabrina for a more mature audience and has plenty of twists and turns to keep you entertained for the full 10 episodes. I did have a few issues, but it's impossible not to fall in love with this stylish, fun, creepy, and surprisingly gory new version of Sabrina, and that's why I'm giving Chilling Adventures of Sabrina an 8 out of 10. And with that score comes the end of this review. Let me know what you thought of the series in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and comment, and if you enjoyed the review, make sure you hit subscribe and never miss another episode. For now though, that's it for this one. I'll see you next time.